Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode number 76 today, to review the Australian Grand Prix with your usual host, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom here. And it's the start of the 2018 season, and what a race it was. A topsy-turvy one. I think I said it in my video yesterday, but very much kind of like a season opener. What you kind of want out of it. I don't know what you two think about it in general, like just initial thoughts of it.
We hit the ground running in terms of who can win this championship, because last year obviously we came out of probably the first round going, okay, Ferrari can take it to Mercedes. This year we've realised that Ferrari can take it to Mercedes, and we also feel like we're a little bit still unsure about the ye old Red Bulls, but much better season opener compared to last year. We had a little bit more topsy-turvy, a few more overtakes, not an amazing Grand Prix, I'm not going to rave about it, but it's been an okay season opener, and hopefully the next race at Bahrain we'll probably see a good bit of overtaking.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great race, worth getting up for, first of all, in my opinion. We saw a little bit of everything, which is always good. And I think we're not going into too many details. I think overall there was a good bit of everything. I think there wasn't too many dead periods in the race. There's always something going on, which is good. And quite a few unique things also happened, one in particular. But overall, good race. And I think the best thing we can do is really go team by team. So we'll start off with, in this case, the winning team, which I think... I'm not going to say I'd said it, but in predictions, I might have said this.
I think you said Sebastian Vettel.
I think Vettel might win. I might have said this.
I think you went with your heart. I think you did go with your heart and you said Vettel, if I remember correctly.
Well, because we did two takes. I can't remember which one I said it in, but I'm going to say I think I said it. So, Sebastian Vettel won for Ferrari, so we'll kick it off with them. Ferrari, I don't know about you guys, but I was very impressed. I mean, we know and it's apparent that the pace they had 12 months ago, the situation, you can see they're lacking a bit compared to 12 months ago, but they still pulled it off, and obviously a bit of luck on their side, but Vettel coming away with the win. And personally, myself, very happy. Good to see that they were there, because I genuinely did not expect them to be the second best team and actually even get in both cars on the podium. So, I don't know, what are your thoughts on the race?
I just got a weird thought that just popped into my mind. The driver that won wasn't the Ferrari driver that I thought would win after qualifying, because Raikkonen has had Vettel in his pocket all weekend, out qualifying him, and pretty much until the pit stops, out racing him. Yeah, I thought Raikkonen has really stepped up this season. Even in pre-season testing as well, he's been looking very strong, and he's proved that he can take the fight to Vettel this season. But it's Formula One, it's motorsport, there's always a bit of luck involved, and Vettel I don't think anyone could have predicted it. It's just one of them things where Vettel's in third, and the only option he could do was go a bit longer, and then obviously, even if the virtual safety car didn't come out, that just meant that he would have been on fresher tyres into the race. If Raikkonen would have let him through to attack Hamilton, then we'll always probably just fight about that to the grave, because that's a hot topic at the moment in Ferrari. But, virtual safety car comes out, look of the draw for Vettel, and I think he'll be he'll be going to sleep happy, but just not too content with this winning position.
I do have a few thoughts regarding this whole situation, because no one seems to have said it, and I've saved it for the podcast. Basically, I've not even bothered tweeting about it. So this whole Ferrari conspiracy VSC situation, also favouring Vettel in the strategy, which some people have also said. I don't know about you, but if you think about it logically, Ferrari gave Raikkonen full preference that race because Vettel was hung out to dry to do the Raikkonen strategy that race. Normally it's Vettel who comes in following the leader on the lead lap, and Raikkonen's the one that gets hung out to dry to the point where the leaders and the fresh tyres, in this case Hamilton, catches him back up, and they hope Raikkonen can be some sort of roadblock for him. In this case it was Sebastian Vettel. Little did we know that the VSC would occur, and it was a completely unintentional VSC, whereas some people genuinely believe that was scripted because Haas have an affiliation with Ferrari, which is
the stupidest thing I've heard in the known universe.
Listen, Callum, you said it with a tweet, I think, but all you got to do is look at the mechanics' reaction after the race from the Haas team, and that makes you realise. I'm pretty sure that's not a conspiracy theory, but Twitter was. I want to talk about this, guys, but Twitter was a bit. Wasn't. It was getting on my nerves, and I'm not one to normally bat an eyelid at the moment for
that's why
stuff on Twitter. But
when the race ended, I just shut off Twitter and just got on with record my video that I wanted to record after the race, because I was just like, there's just no point. looking at reactions, really. I tweeted out, give me top moments for the Grand Prix for my followers. Didn't bother looking at my timeline, really, because it's just kind of... because I enjoyed that race. I was like, okay, yeah, it's a pretty decent opening. I had, like I said, very topsy-turvy. Pretty much, in an opener, you want that kind of edgy kind of feel, a bit of raw feeling of some mistakes here, some kind of unknown, the amount of people that swapped due to the Haas and the virtual safety car, the amount of people that went up and down, and it created basically an X shape on the graph for the positions that F1 tweeted out. Just kind of, all round enjoyable. So, yeah, I just clicked straight off it like, no, I just don't want to deal with this. Yeah, fully agree, though. That is a good point in terms of Vettel's strategy. He said, quote, that he was just waiting for something to happen, if something happened, and then something did happen. So, yeah, if nothing happened, he would have fully been on a Raikkonen, hung out to dry. I'm thinking back to, I think China, I can't remember what year, but just China sticks out in my mind. One of the years, I think, Raikkonen tried some really, I think it was last year, China. I think he just went really long last year in the Chinese Grand Prix. And he was even arguing with his engineer at the time, Kimi was, about why haven't we come in yet? That's pretty much what Vettel would have said if...
Yeah, it springs to mind.
If the virtual safety car hadn't come in. So, yeah, really good point there. And, it just kind of shows, sometimes racing, things happen. I think Vettel and Ferrari put it quite well as well. Last year, a couple of times they got caught out, virtual safety car. It's happened many times before in previous years, not just last year, but years before that.
This is what I wanted to touch on to my fellow Hamilton fans. I know, right, and this is what I carefully tweeted this because people realise that if we go back to Spain 2017, the virtual safety car there, I think when Van Dorn and Massa came together, I think it was at lap 34 or something, I tweeted an article about it, and Hamilton and Mercedes capitalised on the virtual safety car to gain a huge amount of time to catch up Vettel to then obviously eventually pass him to win the Grand Prix. So it feels like this whole argument that the virtual safety car is now all of a sudden the worst rule in the world and needs to be get rid of straight away because it's unfair and doesn't neutralise the race and we should close the pit lane and everything, when in fact this has happened all the time and it's basically the same. It's a virtual safety car as opposed to a safety car. You do get changes in strategy around the safety car period. So I'm not overly sure why people are suddenly kicking up a fuss that, now it's just been gifted to Vettel, because it had been gifted to Vettel, but this is motorsport, and I feel like people have just forgotten what a safety car is. I don't know about you two, but it just baffled me that people just pulled this out of their arse, obviously.
People need to just chill a bit. I think Hamilton will probably win the next race, and it'll be in the Hamilton world. So I think if it was like last year where Vettel's actually a threat, then you'd be like, okay, I'm a bit vexed, but this race, if you look at it on paper, Mercedes were pretty much untouchable. It's just a bit of bad luck. So fully expect them in the next race,
Hamilton
and even the ones after that, because I don't know when it's going to happen, when Ferrari are going to bounce back, maybe Monaco again. But on paper, in terms of tracks that suit Ferrari, I still can't really see anything up before Monaco that really is going to be something that helps them, unless, like I said, it's something like today where they strike first. So
Well, especially if
Mercedes
lose their wingman in the form of Valtteri Bottas, which obviously we'll touch on in a minute. But you got to think from Ferrari's perspective. Okay, I feel like Raikkonen's a little bit pissed off this weekend.
I was watching Spanish coverage.
Also, actually, this is what I want to say. If anyone does follow me, I put this tweet out, and this is so true. That sort of strategy looks incredibly clever if it pays off. If a virtual safety car does get deployed, if not, it just looks silly. In the same way that it's like trying to predict rain. If you put on wets too early, then you're just like a twat. But if you time it perfectly, e.g. Silverstone 2015 when Hamilton came in at the perfect point, everyone's like, oh my God, strategy king. So it does involve a little bit of luck here, but there's no point of ranting about that too much because I feel like people just blown it off.
I think it just comes down to good luck and Ferrari having two cars in the race. I did tweet at the time, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I did say the fact Ferrari have two cars and Mercedes have one, this could be very awkward for Hamilton this race. My idea of that was different to what occurred in the real-life scenario because I was thinking maybe they'd pit Vettel really early for the undercut and force Hamilton in and keep Raikkonen out and try something with him. Sort of like the other way around, but basically essentially leaving Raikkonen out in a one-stop whereas Vettel forces Hamilton to a two-stop because obviously Hamilton said after the race he was following Vettel that race realistically. So say if Vettel would pit really early for the two-stop, that might have actually forced Hamilton into the two-stop. And if Raikkonen had gone for the one, then I was thinking that might have been a way for Ferrari to win the race. if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the
Just
irony.
doing one stop less.
Yeah,
you know.
the irony
but,
is if they did the classic Raikkonen strategy and put Raikkonen on that longer strategy, he probably would have ended up winning then. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I foresaw because Raikkonen had first choice. So I thought they might have sacrificed Vettel a bit for Raikkonen. But even still, the essence of the tweet when I said 2 cars is better than 1 still came true because they could afford to put one car on one strategy, one on the other, and just whatever works. So fair play to Ferrari. I was surprised. You might be able to fill me in on this, but I don't know why Vettel went on the softs when he came in, when he could have easily gone supers, unless he didn't have
the super soft didn't look like a good tyre from what the Red Bull tried.
That's true.
Out of the top 10, only 4 people went the super soft the entire race. Most of them just went ultras to softs. I don't know. Maybe also Ferrari obviously they have data, so maybe they just decided on that factor. But yeah, I mean Ferrari, the whole virtual safety car thing, the questions people are doing, it's kind of like, it's been there for like ages. Everyone knows that's a thing. Everyone knows that's a thing, that if you did pit under a virtual safety car or pit under a safety car. I mean, the virtual safety car hasn't been around for a while, but think back to how many years we've had the normal safety car.
Yeah,
and
that's what I
every
mean.
single time we say it's a free pit stop, it's a free pit stop, it's a free pit stop. It's not a free pit stop virtual safety car. It's a pit stop that is less time. It's not exactly the same as safety car because that's literally a free pit stop if you time it right. But the virtual safety car, it makes sense. Everyone drives to a delta. You're all the same, but you're losing less time whilst you're in the pit lane because everyone else going down the main pit lane is driving at that slow speed. That makes perfect.
I thought Sky did a shit way of explaining it. It's so awful.
That
I think
makes
Crofty was like, oh yeah, they just go slower for the pit lane. No, you actually still go slow. You are going at a slower speed in the pit lane, but the overall lap time means your lap time
You've
through
lost
the
less
pits
making
is
the pit
quicker
stop
than when you're on the track.
Yeah,
you
you've
can
lost,
bolt it into the line.
Yeah, Vettel lost less time pitting under the virtual safety car compared to a normal pit stop scenario. But, let's forget the virtual safety car. Say the safety car came out straight away, full safety car. There might have been a good chance Vettel still did the exact same thing because it did turn into a full safety car anyway, let's not forget. So, virtual safety car aside, a lot of people just are pinning it on VSC. There was a full safety car, so let's pretend like it went straight to safety car. Vettel could have had a very good chance to still do that strategy.
At the end of the day, it came down to the system fault, wasn't it? Some system fault in the Mercedes, and also
something to do with
it was a software basically.
So
Merck saw it and it gave the green thumbs up for 12-second delta time they had of the safety car period, because all of them, when they time it, they all time it of what happens if a safety car comes out now, if we pit now. So that period said 12 seconds. They needed actually in reality 15 seconds. That was the 3 seconds that were between Vettel and Hamilton when Vettel came out. Unfortunately, Toto Wolff blamed that system as why they had that issue. So that's something they need to look at. The way he explained it on Sky was a bit odd. It's almost like it wasn't like a fault that went faulty. It's just the fact that the training of the software was kind of like, it just misjudged that exact scenario of everyone else is on the virtual safety car.
They just never factored in that safety. They never factored in that scenario, basically.
Yeah, like that scenario was very unique. Like virtual, you just pit, the guy is coming round, and then it turns into a safety car straight after you come out from the virtual. Yeah, it's a very weird scenario, not like the exact thing maybe the software's ever calculated before. So, but yeah, that's what he was saying. I don't know if that's fully, maybe he was trying to cover off some personnel, which is definitely, just kind of him. But I would also kind of, tend to be like, okay, yeah, that happens in F1 sometimes. The software just can't calculate it.
It's not the first time that...
Yeah, we've seen it plenty of times with Merck, with Ferrari, with plenty of people.
So, basically what you're saying with this is they didn't run the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. It did not run the numbers, So,
but overall, I think we can all say... I think this race reminded me of 2016, the 2016 race. You remember Vettel in one particular instance as well, because Hamilton said in this race today, I'm going to go for it. Reminded me of Vettel when he was like sort of really going mad in that race because he did an extra stop and he was really pushing hard and he could argue the fastest driver on the day. And then he made that mistake by pushing too hard. And the same thing Hamilton today. Yeah. He just went for it, didn't work for him. Dirty year, once again comes back to bite him in Australia. Although he's got a brilliant pole record and I think 5 race wins. Could have been a lot more because he seems to come unstuck, especially in the V6 era with the dirty air. But I think that sort of segues quite nicely onto Mercedes.
I mean, so, can I start Hamilton with the funny bit? Because I just can't stop laughing at, I'm going to go for it and go straight off. Like, that did make me laugh.
It was perfect timing. It was perfect timing.
It was literally the perfect timing.
Like, because the radio was probably a little bit delayed, but that made it a better timing because it was so much closer to the time he went off. So it's as if he said it, and then 2 corners later,
I'm going for it. No, shit. Oh, maybe not. White flag. Nah, I'm out.
It's like, literally, you know what it's like? It's like back in 3-for-all when I said Super ERS and Crash.
Yeah, literally.
It's like that.
Timing could not have been perfect.
I'm going for it. Goes wide.
Jokes aside, I think that was one of the best laps I think I've seen Hamilton ever do. Like, that was insane on Saturday.
Referring to qualifying. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was... Mercedes started off with an absolute bang. Like, Bottas literally tripped over his own shoelaces, and that was just him bottling under the pressure there. Bottle ass. I tried to make it up on the fly, but in terms of, like, you got to think, Mercedes have still got to be quite happy though coming out of Australia. Like, they do still have the fastest car. They are, well, the media like to blow it up about this party mode that they've got on their engine in their engine settings, even though Hamilton said that between Q2 and Q3 they didn't change the engine settings. Whether or not that's true or not is different. But you know, Vettel said that he had 5/10 he probably could have found in his Q3 lap.
Yeah,
so that does make me believe what Hamilton said. But
I told Arav yesterday, Vettel's lap, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was scruffy. He lost at least a quarter of a second alone in just the fast chicane because he got the line all wrong and he lost all momentum on the exit of the second one. So, like, his lap was scruffy. Like, also Verstappen as well. You know, his lap said he could have done better. So, I think it does come down to Hamilton just pretty much being, in my opinion, the ultimate best qualifier ever. So, you know.
You hold that shit up.
Yeah,
that
pretty
was.
much.
And to be fair, you know, now, just on Halo talk, the T-cam actually looks kind of acceptable after the other one. We'll not even talk about the shoulder cam. We won't even speak about it. It's like, the meme about put the squares and what square can you see the track. I love that meme so much because you can't see any of the track.
I'm very surprised and disappointed, and this is not me shitting on the Halo. This is me basically saying with all the investigation work, yet they did not factor in TV cameras as like what an inconvenience it would prove for TV cameras and TV coverage having the Halo there.
You know what it is?
And only realising now that is like a bit of
I feel like they realised it, but you have to give, what is it, end of June 30th or something? They have to tell the teams that they've got to move the cameras, and obviously that doesn't have an aerodynamic effect. So I feel like they just thought, oh, we're just going to have to roll with this now. Because
well, okay. We've not ran the numbers
in the same way that, you know, the first, second, and third boards, and they're like, oh, that's still got the old logo on it. Oops. And then they changed it for race day just in time. But
and last name versus last name.
That was brilliant.
Legendary drivers of the sport. They're 5-time world champions. Last name is.
I think we're going to have to factor in last name when we do our predictions for the next podcast, definitely. But
last name for pole.
Other than that, Mercedes, they can be happy. Bottas needs to get his shit together. But they predicted quite low for Bottas.
That's pretty much it, because Hamilton said he didn't put a foot wrong. He's just disbelief in terms of just like he just goes down the pit straight, and Vettel just pops there in first. Because literally, like minus that, he did a perfect race. You know, minus the mistake of him pushing, but that was due to the disbelief part. So he didn't put a foot wrong. So Merc can be very happy. Ferrari, you know, they can be happy-ish, but they know they locked into that one. So you know,
at the end of the day,
pretty much on
even if Ferrari finished 2 and 3, that would have still surprised me because I genuinely expected more from Red Bull.
I wasn't. I would have tend to agree with you, but I wasn't shocked as soon as we saw K-Mag get into fourth, and then just how difficult it was for them to get past the Haas.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm referring like before the weekend started, I would have never had Ferrari with second and third. You know,
I think you underestimated Ferrari too much. I think you did.
No, because I know like the pattern is the same.
Yeah, but they're not
known.
I still think that race massively hid what Red Bull's potential is. I think the Haas was
they had a
and it segues us nicely because we pretty much got to the end of Mercedes. So Red Bull, you know, Verstappen had something broken off his car and he was losing downforce, and that's why he span into turn one the way he did on the entry, and then on the outro managed to spin it around quite nicely. Actually, to be fair,
even still, he's driving very reckless behind the Haas, in my opinion.
He did look like a little bit. It felt like you could see that he was frustrated because even though I know. I don't know when. I don't know when this aerodynamic piece fell off to suddenly give him like 11 ballast. If you're talking about F1 game terms, but it did look like he was getting extremely frustrated because even the team were just like, "Come on, Max, you need to get past him. Like you can't. We're on a strategy, which means we've got to go long. We cannot get stuck behind someone." And I felt like that it just all boiled up to just Verstappen cooking his rears, and obviously that's the reason why I dropped it.
The contrast, whereas with Ricciardo, they said to him at the start, "Don't worry, mate, we've got a long time here," referring to obviously getting past Grosjean. They were like, "Don't worry, we got this."
But he still didn't even get past him in the end, though. So that's the thing.
Yeah, true.
It's as soon as I saw K-Man which was a very nice move to be fair to him, very nice move in turn one. As soon as that happened, it was kind of like, okay, so I know and I tweeted out about this, and some people were tweeting like, aren't you happy though for Haas? And I'm like, I am happy for Haas to see them there, but also at the same time, it's kind of like, I really do believe that Red Bull have that potential to maybe go chasing after Merc in the corners at least. So it was a shame to see them on a track like this where it is very difficult. Any other track, it might have been fine. Like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm happy for Haas. Red Bull, if you can get by merit, that's fine. But on this track, that's how hard it is to overtake here. It was pretty much like, you're pretty much ruining Red Bull's entire race here because they have no chance. Because we saw Ricciardo after, right on the back of Kimi. Obviously, yes, he couldn't overtake. That's another thing. But if it panned out a little bit differently, and maybe the two Red Bulls got a bit of luck on the opening lap, it could have been a different story for them. So I think that's why. I don't know if you two saw it. They seemed pretty positive. Max was even, I think Buxton was started off quite downbeat with him in the interview, and he was kind of nah. He was just like, nah. It was just the car losing downforce, so I'm still pretty fine with it. And Ricciardo was pretty happy with getting fourth. He seemed pretty positive in terms of I got fourth in Bahrain and China last 2 years, so let's hopefully make it a podium next time. I think they're confident because they can be. I think that car has more to show, way more to show. I think. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, it's an interesting weekend from all of them really because it's just like it is a shame that they got masked by Haas because we've been kind of teased there because in the same way in qualifying because Verstappen was like, oh yeah, that one mistake into turn 13 or whatever it was, and I could have been on the front row, and he probably could have been. So it's just like we've just been kind of teased all weekend as to what Red Bull can do, and we still come out of Melbourne not knowing what Red Bull can do. So we're going to go to the next race kind of hoping that no one gets in the way, even though obviously I was heartbroken at Haas's issues, but we're going to talk about them later. But, I don't know whether the strategy would have paid off well. It didn't look like that Super Soft was good anyway, but obviously in Dirty Air it was kind of masked by to see what its performance was like. But I feel like it was a fair play to Red Bull for rolling the dice earlier on in the season, but I don't know, I didn't get any sort of hint that would have been a good strategy to win the race.
No, I think, but also this once again proves, I think, in a way, this credit to Ferrari for just consistency as a team this weekend up against it a bit because realistically, the gap Red Bull and Ferrari had to Mercedes? I thought that's what the gap would have been the other way round. So I thought Red Bull would have been Ferrari and Ferrari would have been Mercedes. That's what I expected coming into this weekend.
Yeah.
So, and it might be. I mean, like I said, Red Bull might be, wanting to sort of show their cards off a bit more, but I also agree. I think sort of wanted to be desired more from Red Bull. Sort of didn't really see much, but even in qualifying, Ricciardo was still like a quarter of a second behind his teammate. So at least one side of the garage seems to be hooking up a little bit better.
It always seems like Verstappen out-qualifies Ricciardo, but then Ricciardo's got a much better race.
Yeah, so I also think consistency in teammates as well. I think Verstappen can wrestle that car a bit more. So I don't expect to see Ricciardo at qualify for in the next race. Maybe Verstappen, but they're just a lot closer this year.
Maybe I was a bit over-ambitious predicting Daniel Ricciardo to get pole, but hey-ho. I was just trying to beef up the Aussies. But I think that's Red Bull talk. Should we talk about the other Renault-powered car, apart from Renault?
Yeah, themselves? I mean, I think we should actually, I know they retired, so they're down the order, but I think we should maybe
should we give them a bit of respect?
Let's go to Haas, then McLaren, because Haas, at one point, they were 4 and 5. Like, they were looking top, like, really good shape, and, they're going so well, and then it all just went very badly, very wrong, very fast. Magnussen comes in, retires straight away, like within 3 corners, and then Grosjean even worse, like 1 corner and a half. And then just the scenes of the pit career afterwards, just kind of like how you can't imagine how that feels, especially for that one guy that Grosjean was consoling afterwards, like. Top class stuff from Romain Grosjean.
Fair play.
Top class. Like that's the team leader has signed. But that guy, I can't imagine the pain.
He was the gunman, wasn't he?
Yeah, like the feelings he must have felt. Like I can't. I don't wish that on anyone, because that must have been such a gut wrenching thing. Like, oh my god, I've just literally
was it
taken
his
the
fault,
car
or
out.
was it the gun though?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Is anybody?
No, because I just saw an article literally as we recorded just before we started recording. There was an article that basically Haas admitted that it's basically an issue of the team hadn't had enough practice with the pit stop. So when it came to the nut thing, the nut got cross-threaded and they just couldn't sort that out whilst they were doing the pit stop. And you're going so fast, 2.5 seconds. They couldn't, figure out the cross-thread issue. And so and it's the same guys that did the pit stops from last year. And they never had any issues like that last year, really.
Yeah.
So they're taking it to a bit of practice issues, a little bit maybe with the gun, and kind of, maybe they didn't have enough practice sorting the gun out when it kind of, whacked on them like that and didn't do the nut properly and cross-threaded it. Yeah, it's just a series of very, very unfortunate events.
Because I think
plus they released
what doesn't
the
add
car
up to
as
me,
well.
I swear it was the left rear for Grosjean and the
It was both
left
rears.
front. No, sorry, no,
No,
the
left-
left rear
both
for
left rears.
Magnussen and the left front for Grosjean.
No, it was left rears on both.
Because
there
I
was two
watched it back and
replays.
they threw up the X on the second time towards the front of the car.
No, because they'd already realised. Because what the problem that they had was, it wasn't the fact that the main issue obviously was trying to get the nut on properly, but the second issue was they kept releasing the car with this automatic whatever system, obviously to get the car out as quickly as possible. I feel like everyone else realised that. On obviously second time round, everyone else realised that. I just thought, oh, for God's sake, that has not just happened again, and we've taken another car out. Because I remember both replays are basically identical. It's the guy on the left rear, because the guy on the left rear, the gunman, he literally throws the gun down and just storms off straight away. The car hasn't even left the pit lane yet, and he's just already stormed off to the back of the garage. So yeah, I'm just. This is what the thing that pisses me off is the fact that then the conspiracy theorist comes in, and I'm like, that guy is already feeling distraught. Don't make it worse by saying, yeah, you did that on purpose, didn't you? It's like, come on.
And like you said, that's a potential big amount of points that might decide their position at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Grosjean said it in his interview. Like,
in their right mind would think they'd throw that away?
Grosjean said it in his interview. If they go well next race and for the next few, doesn't matter. You can brush that off. But down the line, even if they go well in the next few races, what happens down the line if they can't keep up with their R&D? Because they are a very small team still. If they can't keep up with McLaren and Renault, and it does cost them a position potentially that could have snuck up and ruined McLaren or Renault's party in the constructors by the end of the year, they'll be really kicking themselves. But, they'll regroup. Grosjean, as I mentioned, class act, and I think, as a team, they'll move on. Yes, that one guy's going to be distraught, but that's what you do in F1. That's what you do in a sports with a team. Yep. You all take responsibility, you all lose together, win together, and I'm sure they'll bounce back, and I hope they do. Just maybe, hopefully not holding up another team whilst they do it, but it was before that disaster, it was looking so good, and yeah, I mean, is there really much else to say? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like this race is just like you saw how optimistic they were. You saw like qualify. It all added up. You just watched.
Everyone was buzzing.
And they were like, yeah, that car's a good car. And obviously, some people are pointing out the fact that it is basically a 2017 Ferrari, but you kind of apply it and you think,
if you can't beat them, join them.
They haven't just got the blueprint, but you think, well, why doesn't every other team just do that then? In a way. Because instead of being innovative, why don't you just copy it? Because if it's so easy to just copy a car, then why does every other team do it?
Well, it's also a little bit rich, because a lot of the time, every upgrade is copying other teams in some way. You're just kind of tweaking it to work with your philosophy.
So it is a bit ironic on that one, but, the McLaren are happy, because they capitalised on that with the whole virtual safety car.
Swift
and
move on.
Haas, with Nando Alonso getting 5th place on his return away from Honda power. And he was very, very impressed. And to be fair, I was glad to see that McLaren were up against Red Bull, because it's what Sky said, that this is our first opportunity to see if McLaren have the best chassis. And it doesn't look like they have the best chassis, because Alonso was holding up Verstappen quite a bit.
We knew this. We knew this going into pre-season. We were, I think, taken back. We expected something completely different from McLaren, but nah. I think last season, because there's not been a massive evolution. Last season, you could argue maybe because the cars weren't as complex as this year. but the top teams really have taken it up a level this year, and I think McLaren have not. Therefore, I'd say they've actually dropped off a little bit in the chassis, but gained obviously elsewhere. And before the weekend started, I think every word that was being spoken out of the camp was a bit empty, and no one really believed what they were saying. And even after qualifying, when Alonso said, "Yeah, we're going to get some big points tomorrow," and he was very ecstatic to get P11, no one really believed it, but it came true, albeit with a bit of assistance. Ricciardo penalty, Bottas penalty, both Haas cars retiring, but even still, you got to take it. And he finished ahead of a Red Bull car, so fair play.
Yeah, and it's as he said, it's the base. And McLaren being McLaren, they have a lot of money, so you can be sure upgrades will come straight away next race. So this is a baseline. It's a very good baseline. Getting lucky and getting fifth is not bad. So if they were to get lucky again with a better car down the line, could be a podium. You never know.
That equals their best result in the last 3 years. So
it matches since October 2016. Alonso.
No, but it matches. But I mean, that's their best result, full stop, in the Honda era. They've matched it in 3 years.
First race.
Because they got it. I think they got it in Hungary 2015 as well. So that's it. It just matches it already. So they've already done 3 years of work in one race. So
they need to work on the qualifying.
You can notice the difference. You can notice the difference when defending. Alonso was a lot. I mean, he's hard to get past anyway, and now he's got a bit extra power in the back of that car. And you can see Verstappen really never had a sniff. He's obviously had that dual trainer cars, but no one really broke the 1 second barrier. You could say Dirty Air obviously aided that, but Alonso
he has
definitely
plenty of practice. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and also obviously I was watching Spanish coverage, so they were talking about him a little bit more than the others, and basically he was getting faster as the race went on, and the others were struggling to keep up. He basically in that after the safety car period, he was struggling to get going, but once he got better and better as the stint went on, and he was stretching the pack a bit, and that's why he got home so comfortably in P5. Obviously Verstappen was there, but that's why you never really saw an attack, because Alonso kept doing personal best every single lap, and his pace was really good.
Yeah, and you've got to say fair play to Van Dorn as well. He had a solid weekend. I think obviously he's 4 places behind, but only
that's really just
straight
his first stint almost.
On the same straight though, so
he was same straight. If he was just a couple of cars ahead in the first stint, he would have locked in with Alonso in terms of the jumping in the virtual safety car period. So I mean, he's happy. It's his birthday tomorrow, or today when we post the podcast, actually, technically. So happy birthday, Stoffel. And good birthday present for him to be in the points straight away. And both of them you can see in the post videos, just happy, team's happy. It's all good for McLaren. This is a very good base. It's a very good base. It could have been so much worse. We're making all those jokes.
It's good. Yeah, it's good for Alonso, the team radio, to really embrace the team sort of publicly.
Yeah, we can
really
fight.
Say,
we can
we're
fight
together. We can do this, and really embracing, similar to we said with Grosjean, embracing now that team leader role.
What was that other team radio that he had? I think when he said his race engineer was getting.
It was mid-race. He was like,
and he was
his
just
engineer
"Come on,
told him
man,
something.
we're racing here."
Yeah, his engineer told him something,
Kimi-esque.
and he said it wasn't very energetic. And then his engineer didn't really come back with the best kind of phrase to say yes.
Cringe.
He was like, "Yes, mate. Yes, I'm here with you the entire race. Yeah, let's go." It's kind of like, okay, that's not what you say. You should have just started shouting, not go, "Yes, mate, I'm here. Don't worry."
that did cringe me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Alonso's always great on the radio. Always good on the radio.
They improved later on though, because once he had that train behind him, I think he did say. The team radio guy, I think he did say, "Listen, mate, you've got this easy. Don't worry about it. You've got good pace.
Yeah.
No, he's like, you've got this, bro. No worries, easy." So
they've got a good working relationship, them too.
Yeah, I think him and his engineer have a very good. They know each other well. Coming off also that Grand Prix documentary they did, when you see a little snippets of them talking together, it's kind of like Alonso knows his engineer is a little bit more monotone than maybe he's used to from Ferrari days or previous days in F1. So he knows how to push his buttons, and vice versa. The engineer knows how to push.
It's very monotone in a way.
But the engineer, vice versa, knows how to push Alonso's buttons in terms of getting the most out of him, in terms of when to say it, of you got this, mate, or you need to really push. So yeah, good relationship there.
I liked it.
So moving on from McLaren, talk about Red Bull, Verstappen 6th, then Hülkenberg getting onto Renault, then Hülkenberg 7th, and Sainz in 10th. Hülkenberg, very quiet race really. I don't know about you two. I didn't really see too much of Hulk that entire race.
No, little squad with Ricardo.
Yeah, and he got screwed over by the virtual safety car, but obviously no one's been kicking him fuss on his side.
He had a good weekend though. He could have
solid, very solid.
On another day, Renault impressed me. They surprised me. I knew they'd still be okay. Their car didn't really develop that much over the winter, but I just trust them because they're a manufacturer, so they have a good base anyway. And to be honest with you, that's more or less where I expected them, if not a little bit more. I thought maybe they'd be sort of roles reversed with McLaren. I know Alonso got 5th, but what I'm saying is I think Renault are slightly faster than McLaren at the minute. I just think obviously Alonso got the better role of the green with the strategy. Yeah. But you could make a case for them to be the 4th best team because they squabbled it out with the Haas in the qualifying session yesterday. So yeah, really impressed. And also Sainz as well, fair play, battling through the illness yesterday because there's basically 2 arguments. I don't know if
he explained to Buxton in the paddock pass what happened. Right. So the drinks thing broke. So the entire race, it just started pumping water into his mouth. So he was just drinking.
Right.
And then it got to halfway, I think he said, just before the safety car, basically. And he was like, I can't take it anymore. Like, I've literally drank everything. My entire stomach is full. So he just took the mouthpiece out and just let it pour onto his suit. So his race suit was getting wet the entire race. He was still pumping out water onto his race suit. And then in the safety car period, because it was sloshing around, he almost threw up under the safety car period. And then he kind of just drove through it until the end of the race. So fair play, because that's a very odd situation.
Because he was holding off Perez towards the end of the race, so fair play to him on that one. Cause
very odd situation.
We haven't had a sickness thing since Weber, and that was
we haven't had a vomiting situation. This was a bit of a weird. It wasn't like sickness, but it was kind of like queasiness from too much water intake. But it's a very odd one. If I was him, to be fair, I guess he thought maybe I can just finish the entire thing like halfway through the race, and that's fine. But I guess he underestimated how much water was still coming through because he literally.
They only have like half a litre though, don't they?
So, because if he knew that was that much water, then it probably would have been a decision of, okay, I'm just going to get wet from like 1/3 of the race, take the mouthpiece out, and just let it wet your entire overalls. But I guess he thought he could outdrink the entire thing. So
you must just have more than half. Because if you think like, you've got to apply context to this though, is the fact that like, maybe we could just drink half a litre straight up, but then you apply 5 times the force of gravity to your body for half a race.
Yeah, true, very true.
It's small details. Like they take sips out of the water. They never take like a big.
No.
And that's exactly what he had to do. He just had to constantly start drinking it, basically, from the I don't know if it was at the very start, but it was very early on. He just had to keep.
Like to drink with.
Yeah, literally.
I was just gonna do that.
Literally. In fact, the way he painted it to Buxton was literally like he was constantly. It wasn't little slurps. It was like it was just pumping every single second. So very odd. Very odd.
Wow. Okay.
Gulp.
Fair play to him, but it's a shame because you think. If the cards played out a little bit better, Hulkenberg could have been in Alonso's position if he didn't pit when he did. But obviously with the virtual safety car, I think that's how both one of the Red Bulls I think got ahead of him as well as Alonso, or maybe both. But still, 7th place is still decent. They capitalised on Haas, so I think they can leave Melbourne happy. Unlike Force India, which
I will say, before we delve in, I think overall that top 10, I think the top 5 teams, except Haas, both cars, double points, which I think more or less everyone predicted. Obviously, Haas had their issues, but I think we know now, more or less, the top 6 teams are those at the minute.
Yeah, it's after that, which is a little bit wish-washy.
Yeah, I think that Australia confirmed that those 6 are sort of the top dogs. Obviously, 3 top, 3 upper midfield, and then the rest, which, like you said, Force India.
You pretty much got Force India in no man's land because
Perez
was so Sainz was looking here at the standings on the left here. So Renault, which line is that? Okay, so Sainz was 45 seconds back. You can't really count him because of the issues he had because he said he wasn't 100%. Like he's looking forward to pushing in anger next race. So if we take the next car, Van Dorn was 34.9 back. Perez was 45, and then after Ocon, you're looking at... Well, Ocon was actually quite a way back. Actually, Ocon had a horrendous race. He did that's a horrendous... Okay, so Perez was...
weekend.
Yeah, Perez was 46.8. I think if Ocon bucked up his pace, he would be right with Perez, but he had a horrendous one. So he was 1 minute back. And then after that, Leclerc's 1 minute 15. So I think if Ocon didn't have issues, whatever issue he had, he would be with Perez. So I think you can see Perez is... Force India are pretty much in no man's land by themselves.
Yeah, they are.
Like too fast for the back runners, not fast enough to catch up to that top fight pack. I mean Perez said from the get-go on Saturday that this is not the pace we thought we'd have, and pretty much just showed in the race.
Yeah, that he was a bit it was just a little bit miffed by it all because it just appears that they have gone backwards. And same with Ocon as well. Like, he's trying to keep his motivation because last year, you know what he was like? Always motivated, always with his winky faces because he loves a good winky face on Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, I don't know, because Ocon had a pretty piss poor qualifying. As did Perez, really. Yeah, but obviously that was probably just maxing out the Force India. But Perez basically just points to the fact that because everything on that Force India was brand new. Like, apart from the front wing, there was new bits on every part of that Force India. Don't know about other teams in comparison, but the fact that obviously they bought all these new little bits and bobs and they still haven't gone forwards does point, because obviously people are already gone, yeah, make a B car instead then. But obviously it's not that costs a lot of money. So, yeah, I'm struggling to bring words forward for Force India because they've just gone a bit meh. They've gone back to how they were rather than fourth place.
Their performance is as good as their car looks. Not very good.
Yeah, it's a bit nah.
So,
they just haven't used, I don't know, haven't used the R&D wisely, went the wrong way in terms of, like, maybe they should have gone for a revolution, then an evolution, because maybe they've gone that McLaren 2012 way, that they've hit a development pass and they need to build a car from scratch. I don't know.
It feels like they've cocked up because they were the last team to unveil their car. They brought parts very late to Australia, and even then there wasn't as many as maybe people hoped they'd bring. The car wasn't drastically different into Australia. It all just feels a bit last minute with Force India, and that to me signals they might have maybe messed up in the early development of the car.
Time will tell on that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
I hope they come back forward because I don't want them to be on their own. Kind of like what Red Bull were last year, where they're just on their own every race. Like, you don't want a team like that. Like, you kind of ruin the sport a little bit, but. Let's talk about another Frenchman in Charles Leclerc on his debut. How would we rate his
Monegasque?
Sorry,
Monaco Gas. Whatever the hell you pronounce it.
Basically,
Leclerc.
Just
great debut though. P13. That's solid. And in the interviews, you can see he was very, very happy. Did everything right, pretty much, in terms of positive race. Went forward, made a couple of moves, and then pretty much it's a case of. I think even he I think for him, obviously, I think all of us knew that no matter how good Leclerc is in that car, the car needs to improve quite steadily over the season. I think in the interviews, it was kind of like almost this race, Leclerc finally realised, okay, yeah, I can do a great race, but it might not equal points now. And he kind of got a reality check of F1, because he said that in his interview in Paddock Pass of like, you know, he was like, oh yeah, did everything right, but just, you know, realisation of how hard it's going to be here, just couldn't get any points today. We'll see. But, you know, apart from that, I don't think he put a foot wrong, I don't think.
No, he did well.
No, I mean, they were good in qualifying. They were competitive. You could argue maybe a Q2 on a better day. But
yeah, I mean, he was upset about that on Saturday. That he could have made it. So
I think I expected a little bit more from Sauber. I thought it would have been a little bit hard, suggesting how much of an improvement their car is and having an up-to-date power unit.
Well, Leclerc...
I'm not talking a lot. I'm talking like getting to the Q2 just.
Where Leclerc got in the race, I would say the race pace seemed like pretty much where I thought, like ahead of Williams quite well. Yeah, qualifying, yeah, but I think that was down to more driver error. They couldn't just maximise it fully.
Well, they had a lot of setup issues, didn't they, from Friday? Apparently, they were awful in Friday.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
did a lot of overnight work onto the Saturday to pull something out of the bag, but even still...
Yeah, and like coming off testing, they were like, yeah, the car's very unstable. So they did a big job to actually just make that car work for them and like make it drivable. That's the kind of word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, they had the most spins in testing, so...
They had identical spins with two drivers.
Yeah.
They did turn 5, I think, in 4.
It's unfortunate hydraulic failure then for Ericsson. So, I mean, those things kind of happen. You can't really do too much about that. So, hopefully they kind of iron that out, because he was actually going quite well as well, because he made I think he overtook like three cars in the opening lap or something like that.
Apparently he was about to overtake someone. I can't remember who. I think it was
I think it was Stroll. He was lining up a move on Stroll, and then he had the failure. So he was actually going well. He'd, I think, got past 2 or 3 cars by that point and was going for that fourth of Stroll, and then hit. So actually he was going very well as well. So positive signs from them. They just need to keep at it, I think is the words, and kind of just hopefully make some more steps up.
They're in the mix now. It's a massive step forward from last year where they were. So they're in the mix now. They've got to try and build on that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said. I thought they'd be last, but they would be a lot closer. because they were nowhere last year in terms of those sorry scenes at Spa of like the next car along going to turn 1 and they were still making the bus stop. So I think they've closed that gap down and they're in the mix even more so than I thought they would be. So it's very, very positive. I think they just need to keep their heads down, and here's hoping, fingers crossed, that they could just keep the development going and then get up there. Guess moving on to a team that's not going anywhere anytime soon, Williams, Stroll 14. I don't know if you saw it in the interviews. He absolutely slated the team.
Did he?
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, the car's just rubbish right now. It's just like, it doesn't have the pace at all. It's not drivable.
No. I thought Stroll did well. He got into Q2, didn't he?
Yeah, he was really happy with that lap. I mean, I don't know when I said it, but I know I said it at some point. I can very much see Williams having a 2014 Sauber when they had Sutil and Gutierrez, and compared to 2013 where they did so well with Hulkenberg. In 2014, they didn't score a single point. I can see that happening. Like they'll be close, and they'll always be there, but for some reason, they just won't score a point because they just don't have enough on the race day.
Yeah.
Because right now, you could argue easily say Sirotkin was the slowest guy this weekend, and that's pretty...
Yeah, it's hard to judge Sirotkin because, being out on...
Well, he went early out due to a sandwich bag,
early.
apparently caught in his brakes. So that was really unfortunate, actually, for him, because even if, like, his pace alone, it would have just been good, and he said it himself, would have been great for him just to get mileage in that car, just get in a race scenario, so... but I don't know, is there much...
Yeah, it's such a shame. Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about Williams because... It's just a bit...
Just nothing there.
Yeah,
just nothing there.
Williams are in trouble.
It's basically Sauber, Williams and Toro Rosso are the three teams that are the
If I was
strugglers
at Williams,
year.
I'd be very worried because also they're losing Martini at the end of the season, so their main sponsor is gone. So it's very much going back to like a 2013 route that way, and sort of down into the dark alleys,
And you say Sauber, Williams, Toro Rosso, but I think Toro Rosso, their pace, I think, and what they could have done, it was masked quite heavily because you had Hartley with a huge lock up in turn 1. He pit early, so that pretty much wrecked his entire strategy. So that was his fault, driver error.
He did a stroll.
He ruined what could have been a great race. Actually, could have been a decent race. And then Gasly, unfortunately,
he could have gone into Q2 as well.
And then,
after the interview, he said he left a bit of time on the table on his lap. He reckoned he could have done that.
Yeah. And then of course Gasly made that huge error in qualifying. So we don't actually fully know yet what their true pace could have been without mistakes like that. And then Gasly, unfortunately, power unit issues. So I'm still hopeful. Yes, the Honda issues are still there, but in terms of pace, I think we haven't seen it fully yet because of that whole masking situation. From lap 1, Hartley was basically taken out of the equation. Gasly was actually looking okay. I didn't fully remember where he was, but I feel like he was in the mix there with the Saubers and right on the Williams as well. And then that power unit issue came, so really unfortunate for him. But
all in all, we've been robbed of a bit of the entire Red Bull family showing their cars this weekend.
Yeah, honestly, I think the entire Red Bull family has more to show still, very much.
So we need to find out what they're like. But on the face of it, probably apart from Haas, probably the next worst weekend was Toro Rosso. Like,
just not ideal, especially after such a bulletproof testing. It was unfortunate for them to be dealt this card of the Gasly engine issue because I think it was the MGH. I think they said.
MGH,
straight away, that's going to be a nightmare now for Gasly in terms of going forward. There's probably going to be an early penalty for him.
He's only going to do 10 races on them two engine parts.
So they've been like Toto Wolff and Mercedes said they got punched in the face. Toro Rosso also got punched or slapped and kicked in the face.
Yeah,
and got
and
really
Haas
annoying.
Got choke slammed and drowned.
Yeah, a lot of different analogies there. But I think that's what opening round's all about. It's all about a lot of muck-ups and not everything goes right for everyone. And it's that time where other teams capitalise and then you have that kind of thing of a team trying to cling on to the points they maybe gained early on in the race, in the season. Because that's what the opening round, I feel, is all about. But apart from that...
I think, because they're leading the drivers and the constructors. The constructors especially by quite a margin because Bottas only got 8th.
Yeah.
Ferrari needed this result, and the reason I say this is because it buys them another 2 weeks to try and fix this. It reminds me in a way, it's nowhere near as bad, but it does remind me in a little bit of 2012 when they knew they were rocking up with possibly a few issues with their car and they're running against the clock to try and get it up to scratch.
Although it just happened one race earlier, because for them it happened the second race with Alonso, and this one's the first race.
This is going to basically test their their ability to try and develop the car, because they're sort of last year they weren't really forced because they had a good car to start with, so they could sort of run with it. But this year they're forced to really throw stuff onto the car to improve.
I think it's looking at what all the journalists were saying off Friday and Saturday. I think it's even less. It's less of a case maybe of them developing it in terms of not major upgrades, but maybe just kind of understanding the car. Because I think all the journalists were saying that Ferrari have engineered themselves into a tricky car. Like they've made a diva for themselves, and they need to understand it a lot more whilst adding some upgrades onto it. So I think maybe, from 2012 was a bit more dire for them off pre-season, whereas this year pre-season was quite good for them overall. So, like you said, good analogy in terms of, they're buying themselves some time basically here to kind of work on stuff. Bahrain,
Because, going to Bahrain, worst case scenario, that Vettel and Hamilton could be equal on points, and most likely, I'd say Ferrari will still lead the constructors. Because of Bottas' result. So what I'm saying is, it buys them another 2, maybe even 3 or 4, whenever the Chinese Grand Prix is. It buys them like another 3 weeks of development and trying to really get that last bit of performance they're looking for in the car, those extra 10th or 2 tenths to really sort of at least solidify them in that second place, And I think what will really confirm is Bahrain, because Hamilton really pulled out a stonker in qualifying, and his race pace was pretty impressive. But we're going to a track where Vettel won last year as well, so that could be pretty interesting.
Could be interesting. Can I, just before we quickly end, should we talk about the new introduction of graphics, just a very brief moment?
Yeah, sure.
And the new intro. Can I just say, that intro is hype.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I love it to bits. And the song. At first, I was a little bit skeptical about the song. I thought that's like, it literally is F1 The Avengers. But then it was paired with that, and also the montage. I feel like that's the ultimate.
The way they
montage
use it in the intro
is
perfect. Like the way the part of the song where it comes in is perfect.
And also when they put the music in the background, I think Crofty, he gets a lot of slate, but he can add to hype. So when you get that intro and he's starting through all the pre-race, he did quite well on that one. I'll give him that. So I feel like it does feel a bit Americanized, but I like it.
I like how they played that song then as Alto Vettel pulled into the pits after his victory. And as he was stepping out of the car, you could just hear that chime of like, dun, 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 dun. Like, it was like, that's hype. Like, that's sick. That's sick. Like, he's won it. And it makes him feel more like a gladiator of like, he's just won a bloody Formula 1 race. Like, bigs the drivers up a lot more. So that was good. And the graphics are all nice and clean. I've already gotten used to everything. Like it. Yeah. I mean, we say this every single time. You get used to it.
It's very good. No, but the graphics I expected, because there were some previews thrown out there last season, but I don't know why they looked a lot better. Also, the font used isn't exactly the same as the one they sort of use all the time. But it's the details in the graphics. Like, for example, I don't know about you guys, but when someone did a purple sector and actually see that on your screen in the top right-hand corner, so you know who's done a purple sector. It's the small details, and we've said this a million times. F1 fans like the details.
In qualifying as well, with the new graphic. Obviously, before it was always just, how much faster is he than the faster driver? It says, who is the faster driver, and is it purple or is it just green? And it obviously then keeps the previous sectors, so you can see how well their lap's going on, and updates to see if anyone else has done a purple.
And also, like, the animations of it are so clean, and also at the top of the tower, when there's a VSC or a safety car, it's very clear there's a safety car because you can see it. It's a big fat yellow square on the top left. It's all just very
I like the do you see the animation of when they are comparing two people racing, like someone's catching and had little steering wheels that turned at the same angle as the actual steering wheel, the driver in the corner. That was cool. I thought that's sweet.
Also, when they on the timing tower, they grouped together the battles, so you can kind of see who's close together. Because before, obviously, they always showed it, but they
zoomed it in, had the little picture with the flag in the background as well.
I loved
Very
it.
Nice.
They had to do that because that isn't exactly new. That's something that really helps identify who's in a battle.
Yeah, you can just look, you can glance at it and say who's.
It
who's
really
in a
helps
battle.
this year because personally, from my experience, I do struggle a bit more to tell who the drivers are because of the lack of. Basically, you can't see the helmets now anymore, so you're sort of squinting for the number. If not, then for the helmet camera. If not, then you're looking at the tower. So it's another reference point because obviously telling out the helmets are a bit harder this year.
Yeah. No, overall, really good.
Solid race weekend. Formula 1 is back, boys.
Yeah,
we did the hard bit as well. We all got up.
That set the tone perfectly. Like I wasn't disappointed. I thought I would be, but no, there was a decent opening. Decent opening as Melbourne races go, I would say.
And the whole Hamilton press conference into Sunday's result was a nice little bit of storyline telling, good on mile driver fashion, planting the seeds for the
drama. The drama.
So,
although Vettel handled it with Vettel kind of backhanded it with class act and kind of just diffused all of it, kind of like, nah, doesn't bother me that it doesn't make my win any sweeter that he said that stuff. When I think someone from the PA office, I can't remember the journalist site that asked the question, but he basically asked Vettel, does it make it sweeter? And he kind of just backhanded like, nah, not really. So Vettel's diffusing it from his side, but yeah, I kind of agree with you, Tom. It was kind of nice to have that kind of irony and kind of like, oh, okay, so the shoe's on the other foot now. How about that? Yeah, it's great to already start building those storylines because something that kind of became last year, but it kind of got diffused very fastly, obviously, very swiftly in the second half of the season.
We've been dropped back into it again. We've been given a new storyline, sort of the same as last year, but it's got a few extra asterisks here and there, and I think we can go to Bahrain, which should have a lot of overtake. Obviously, we'll preview this next podcast. I don't know whether I'll be here, by the way, but we can go to Bahrain and expect a lot more overtaking, which we're not going to say no to. Put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that's it. I think I'll wrap us up for the Australian GP review. Guys, remember, if you do want to get this on the audio, then you can always check out the links below. But there's been rotating little screens the entire time we've been doing this on the YouTube side, so you probably know that by now. But you can get it on the go on Android, SoundCloud, and iTunes for the podcast app. Just search Pitlane Podcast. Obviously, from last podcast episode, we announced we've launched a Patreon page. So if you guys are a fan of the podcast, if you're one of those people that's listened all the way through to this point, the entire podcast, maybe you're really into the podcast. If you have, the means to do so and you want to try and support us a bit more directly, you can check out the Patreon page. Links in the YouTube page description. Even just $1 will help out massively for us, especially. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed that. If you did, hit the like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments below about anything we talked about, any questions we threw out there. Be sure to answer them. And check out these two links in the description. And obviously, all three of our Twitter handles are on screen the entire time. But we'll see you guys next time for the Bahrain Grand Prix preview podcast and wrap up of any news that happens in this next week. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.